Minasan konnichiwa. Welcome everyone to the next lesson. I actually noticed that I got confused with the numbers again. Nothing has been lost, so rest assured this isn't Ninokuni. We haven't lost anything. I just got confused with the numbering. So I think last week I said it was lesson 21 or something, but we're like off by one. This is actually like lesson 22 or 3. Doesn't matter. It's whatever. Really doesn't matter. Today, we're gonna talk about causative. Wow, the crowd goes wild. I know, right? You've been all waiting for it. I'm doing really good. Finished everything, doing 40,000 so far, and we'll be starting 200 words a day off the list. Nice, sounds good. Need to charge your phone again? That does tend to happen. Yeah, there you go. Pretty good. So today, we're gonna look at causative. What is the causative? What does it do? Where does it come from? Where does he go? Where does he come from? Causative, Joe. Did you sleep well? I slept really well. Your eyes are a little red. That's weird. No, I slept really well. I slept for a long time as well, actually. So, first of all, let's do this in our usual setting. We're going to talk about what the causative is as a concept. Then, we're going to learn how to conjugate it. And then we're going to look at some examples. Okay? Are you ready? I hope you're ready. Hirumi, hello. Let's enjoy the lesson. Yes, I hope you do. So, first of all, what is a causative? Well, you can probably already tell from the word cause in there. So, like, cause can be a cause of something, right? And you can also use it as a verb to cause something to happen. And that's basically gives us a pretty good idea what a causative form would do. Basically, causative boils down to how we formulate the concept of making or letting someone do something. So, making / letting someone, which I'm gonna shorten to SMO1. So I'm not gonna shorten it. There is a shorthand for someone, but I forget, and it looks like awkward. Someone do something, okay? From SO, yeah, you're right, I think SO. That also makes me think of significant other. Making or letting someone do something. Especially the making part makes a lot of sense with causative, because making someone do something is like causing them to do something. Examples in English. So how would we say? We would say probably something like, you know, let him play outside. Let him play outside. Outside. Now, the DK, I don't know if Dareka. DK, not DK for Dareka. Yes. Let him play outside. Hey, sang, how you doing? Not here as a command, but just as a neutral sentence saying like, let him play outside. To let him play outside, basically. An example with making someone do something, for example. This is a bit morbid, but we can go in any direction with this. But we could do make them scream, right? Scream. Make them scream. Cause them to scream, basically. Kia! Like that, right? Like that. So, make them scream. That's another use. Next, okay? This is the concept part. Almost done. So, once again, the important part to remember, a causative form is a way of forming, is a way of changing a verb, and this is going to be a verb conjugation, just like what we did last week with passive, is a way to express making or letting someone do something. Having your car fixed, causative. It can be, yes, if you're making someone fix your car, or letting them fix your car, then yes. There's also a, like, sasete morau kind of thing, but I think before we hop too much into combinations of stuff like sasete morau or causative passive, stuff like that, which I want to do maybe next week and the following week, where we'll start like combining a bunch of the stuff that we've learned so far. So simple causatives for today. This is basically already all you need to know on a conceptual level. Okay? Just making someone do something or letting them do something. It often has to do with a certain amount of control. If you do not have control to a degree over that person's action, then this would not work, because you have to be in control. To let someone do something, you have to be in control over their action to a degree. Because if it's not even in your control whether they do it or not, you can not really let them do it. You know what I mean? Anyways, let's look at the formation of it. Formation. This is going to be the same as usual. You're used to this. We're going to talk about Ichidan verbs and Godan verbs and then exception verbs. And that's it. So, formation. What have we? We have Ichidan verbs, right? So let's talk about Ichidan verbs first. Ichidan. If you still don't know what an Ichidan verb is, then bad. Go learn about Ichidan verbs. Do it now. It's episode 4 or 5 of Grammar of Japanese 101, I think. Ichidan, or maybe like 5 and 6 or something. No, it's like 4 and 5, I think. Setsuzoku. Yes. Ichidan. Again, those are verbs like taberu, okiru, something like tsuzukeru or susumeru. All of these, okay? Maybe as a change of pace, let's use like a random one like susumeru today. Susumeru can mean to advance something, to move something forward. Oh, you're not seeing the you're not seeing what you're supposed to see. There we go. Jisho. Wrong browser source. There we go. Yes, there you go. Now you see what you're supposed to see. So susumeru, right? Susumeru, to advance, to move forward, to put a watch forward. Yeah, something like that, right? Let's use this. We see it's an Ichidan verb. It's also transitive, which is going to matter a little bit later. But for now, let's focus on the Ichidan part. So Ichidan verbs are easy. Why are they easy? Because they all have only one stem form, only one very simple stem form. So basically, the way we make the causative is going to be taking the verb stem. For Ichidan, they have one stem, which is just, once again, as you're used to, the act of removing R. That's all it is, okay? I emphasize this every week, but it's always kind of the same. So we get rid of R. I'll actually leave this here to illustrate more nicely. R. Oops. Control Shift. There we go. I have learned the control of time, mastery of time itself. And we add saseru. Okay? Saseru. Fairly simple here. Let me make this red. My brain is lagging, but there we go. Saseru. Alright? I'm glad I'm free those days so I can watch these lessons. Ah, I'm glad too. Saseru. So that basically then becomes like verb, take away the ru to get the stem, add saseru. Alright? Pretty simple, okay? Atha! 11 months! I think you're the first one to reach 11, but you're generally often the first, so thank you very much. This one goes out to you. I shall drink my coffee in your honor. To allow someone to, yes! Right, so that's how you make the causative of Ichidan verbs. You make the stem and then you add saseru. So how would we do this with our verb that we've chosen, which is susumeru? I just finished my coffee. Ooh, nice. Susumeru was the verb we chose, which looks like this. Susumeru, right? So we have me, like this. Susumeru. Okay, so what do we get rid of? We get rid of the ru. Okay, so it's just susume. And then we add saseru. Okay, so in red, I'll do this in red again. Saseru. Susume saseru. Susume saseru. Seeing at the sub every example sentence. Yes, we can do that. Is saseru polite? No, saseru itself is neutral. It is not polite. You can make this polite, which is also, once again, so many Bakamitai contributions. Once again, once we are here, okay? Oops, as always, you're kind of already used to this. Just like with passive, this will behave like an Ichidan verb, okay? So it will basically behave like Ichidan. Ichidan. Just like it did with passive, just like it did with almost everything we've discussed so far. Most conjugations, once they're conjugated, contributing like crazy. Once they're conjugated, they will behave like Ichidan verbs. What do you do to make Ichidan verbs polite? Well, you get rid of ru and you replace with mas, okay? It's as simple as that. Susume sasemasu. That can work. Now it's basically the polite version of it. All right? That will go for Godan verb conjugation as well. So it's always the same. Let's look at Godan. Okay? Godan. Now here, for those of you that were here last week, you're going to have a little bit of an advantage because it turns out Causative actually uses the same stem for the Godan verbs as for the passive form. So even plot slowly drain channel points. Haha. Baretaka. Godan verbs. Godan. Godan, okay, are all the other verbs that are in Ichidan. They end in all kinds of sounds like ku, ru, or bu, or nu. Well, there's one that ends in nu. So what do we do here? We actually take the negative stem, okay? So, V negative stem. Those of you that remember, okay, they're gonna have an easier time now. Negative stem plus seru. Okay, plus seru. It's the important part here. Plus seru. Seru. Good morning, clown. How are you doing? All right. So, negative stem plus seru. How does that look like for any given Godan verb? Well, the negative stem, I hope you have it sort of practiced a little bit at this point. This is the second week in a row that we are using it. And even when you don't make complicated conjugations like passive or causative, you should be familiar with the stem because it is what we use to make the negative form. So to go from something like, let's do yobu, okay? Yobu means to call someone or to yell for someone and to call someone's name. Yobu, okay? Yobu, you can see it here. Yobu, to call out or to invoke. It's a Godan verb, it says it right here, so we trust the dictionary. In the dictionary we trust, at least as far as verb classes are concerned. These are usually correct. I've never seen one that was mistaken, so this database is usually correct. Yobu, Godan verb. Okay, so how do we conjugate yobu? Well, first we need the negative stem, right, like I said. So that would look like this. I'm pretty sure that you would do this kind of stroke order. Yobu. Okay, yeah. Either that or you do the line first. I'm not quite 100% sure. Yobu, which would look something like this. Yobu. So what would you do to make it negative? You would say, oh, well, I have to go from u to a. So it's yobanai, yobanai, right? Yobanai. Not going too deep into this. I talked quite a lot about the negative stem last week. Yobanai, if you need a review on that, the VOD is still here. It's from last week, last Wednesday, and I'm trying to get it on YouTube as well as soon as possible. We're like a few episodes behind on YouTube, but don't worry too much. They will be there soon. Yobu, yobanai, okay? We basically change from an u to an a, and we get... Okay, we get... yobanai, which looks like this. Yobanai. And what is the negative stem? It's just this without the nai part. Okay, and there we are. The yoba. That is the negative stem. Okay, so this here is this. That's the negative stem form. The yobanai part, but without nai. That's the negative stem. And then we just add seru. Okay, so I'll just make this immediately red. Seru. Yobaseru. 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 To make or to let someone call, okay, yobaseru. This could be something like making your friend call someone on the phone, right? Yobaseru, you would use it like that, maybe. Yobaseru. That would be an example of the causative for yobu, okay? Now, same principle for all other Godan verbs. Now, one last thing that we're gonna look at. There are short versions, shortened, more casual versions of this conjugation. So if you remember, for potential and for passive as well, sometimes we had what's called Ranuki. Can you say yobasaseru? No, that would be incorrect. Yobasaseru. It would be yobaseru only. Yobasaseru would be an incorrect conjugation. Like we had for the potential and the passive, we would have like something like Ranuki, which is the act of taking out ra to make it easier and a little bit more informal. There exists something like this for the causative as well. I'm only gonna go quickly over this. It's not like a huge deal, really. We're just gonna do the following. I'm just gonna make some space to show you. And there we are. Basically, okay, this more informal. Can I? Oh, there. I saved accidentally rather than deselecting. It actually works in a way where we would do Sanuki. No, not Sanuki, sadly. Hey, Taco, how are you doing? For Ichidan verbs, it is actually the act of using the stem here plus sasu instead, okay? I'm cross-referencing here, so I'll make sure that I don't mess up. Sasu, okay? This is not as common, but you see it sometime. Sasu. And then under here, we would have just su, okay? Su, yobasu would be what it was. Good. Sorry for being late. Don't worry about it. I mean, this is all recorded, so this here would just be su only. Oh, so it's like ikas. Yeah, ikas, basically, yeah, ikasu. Because some of these are actually like their own verbs in the dictionary if you look them up. But yeah, this is another way of making causative forms. They can be a little bit more common depending on what dialect people talk in. It's just good to be aware of this. So there is this Japanese little like sing-song sort of thing about yubikiri, right? The yubikiri verse. It's like something like yubikiri genman or something like that. Let me just look it up real quick. Yubikiri, and it uses this, yeah, yubikiri genman. It uses this this form as well. It uses nomas rather than nomaseru, right? Nomas, just su instead of seru. And here nomas means I will make you swallow needles, basically. It's pretty rough. Yubikiri genman, uso tsuitara hari senbon nomas. Nomas rather than nomaseru, but they're the same. It's actually a causative in there. Do you conjugate like su then? Yes, exactly. Good thing you mentioned this. I almost forgot. You would conjugate these just like godan su verbs. So the same. These would conjugate the same as something like hanasu. It would conjugate exactly the same. Okay, if that makes sense. Nomas. I used to be a bit confused by this phrase, especially with the nomas, because I thought it was yes, character come from. I'm not quite sure, but maybe, yes, that could be. I'm not a Final Fantasy expert, but it could be. I used to be confused because I thought that nomas was the polite mas form, but it's not. It's a causative. Groya, thanks for the raid. Hey everyone, what was the game called that you play? I forget. It's like something 2D thingy, like doing raid stuff. It looks pretty fun. レイドさせていただきます. Yeah, there you go. 指切り玄満. So that's the form that's used in that verse, basically. Good. So these ones, okay, I'm saying this now. These will not be a big focus of the lesson. Just mentioning them so that you've seen them, all right? They exist. Depending on who you talk to or what the situation is, you might see them more or less. But yeah, they're not like ultra important for you to know. It's good to know about, but you know, it's all right. Good. All right, and now you know what's coming up. As always, we need to talk about the exception verbs. We need to talk about kuru and suru. Our channel points are gone. Yes, crab dance. Channel points are gone. So let's talk about kuru and suru. I missed that. I missed the start. They were different ways of saying the same thing. Yes, these are different ways of saying the same thing. Okay, so suru is pretty easy. And yeah, kosaseru. Yeah, there you go. Just needed to make sure. Ichidan. Good. So suru, in this case, actually just becomes saseru itself. Okay, suru just turns into saseru itself. Saseru. If you listen to Japanese, you'll actually hear this one especially often because of how many suru verbs there are. Saseru. And then kuru just becomes kuru becomes kosaseru. Okay? Kuru becoming こさせる、こさせる。こさせる. What's special about this one here is that the saseru usually attaches to Ichidan verbs, but in the case of kuru, it attaches here as well to the ko, which is, ko itself is the negative stem of kuru, but it's not koseru, it is kosaseru. That's the difference here. So once again, focus, look at the screen, be like, burn this into your mind, learn them once, never again, okay? Start of this bit of a bad internet. Okay, I see. That's a shame. You should scold people who come in late like real teacher. Yes, exactly. So that they leave again. That's kuru and suru, alright? Remember this. Kosaseru is like make someone come. Yes, make someone come. Now, don't take that in the wrong context because it's even, it would also not work because remember, in Japanese, it's in reverse, okay? I don't know if that makes sense, but yes. Kosaseru means like you're causing someone to come to where you are, basically. Like forcing someone to come to your location. Can we look at a couple of example sentences of these? For sure, that's actually where I'm going next because we, of course, next need to look at particle usage. What is detention in game grammar terms? Detention in game grammar terms. You have to write a 2,000 character Discord message that details what you did wrong, and then I grade it. What is in reverse? In reverse means backwards, like the other way around. I don't want to, I was making a joke mostly, but yes. In Japanese too. Yes, in Japanese, of course, whichever you like. So next we're gonna look at particle usage, okay? Particle usage. Now, particle usage here depends on transitivity as well. So let's first look at transitive verbs, okay? So we're gonna look at transitive verbs. Transitive verbs. And for this, I'm going to grab an example sentence. I'm actually using the Imabi article because that one is the most detailed one that I've ever seen, basically, about causative. Here you go. Okay. Here we have one. 弟にゴミを、出させる。Sorry, 出させる。Not 出させる. Not 出させる because 出る is intransitive. So you gotta turn on your brain, alright? This is a bit... So the tricky part here is that some of these look very similar. But yes, it is in fact 出させる. Okay, because it's 出す turning into 出さない 出させる. 出させる. Okay? I will write this down. Boop. Oop, lorem ipsum, yes. I really don't need this. Can I please grab it all? Thank you. Plop, and we're gonna use a different font, obviously. So I should really change that default font. It's not really great, is it? Give me a second while this is loading. We're gonna use some like kyokashotai, like this one. Okay. Maybe there's like a nicer one. Do we have a bold version? No? Okay. That's okay. Okay, there we go. Oops. Sorry, guys. There we go. And I will write some Furigana on top of this. If you guys want to know question of vocab, yeah, well, true that. Colt never disappoints in that regard. All right, so what do we see here? We see, hello, brush, please. B. Ototo, which means little brother, okay? So we're gonna do ototo. Ototo ni gomi o dasaseru. This is da. Dasaseru. So this is dasu, okay? Which looks like this. Oops, yeah, there. I kind of messed up there. But dasu. Dasu means to throw something out. Dasu is just causative. No, dasu is not causative, but dasaseru is causative. It is used in its causative form. Okay, so like we said, dasu becomes dasanai, becomes dasa without the nai, plus seru, dasaseru. dasaseru. The conjugation pattern that we just looked at. So you have dasu itself meaning to put something out. Dasu. Gomi o dasu, okay, is a phrase that's often used for to take out the trash. Okay, gomi o dasu. To take out, okay? You're taking out the trash. But what are you saying here? Well, the thing that I want to focus on is particle usage, okay? So we have some words that you hopefully recognize. Ototo, meaning little brother, all right? And gomi, which means trash. So, and dasaseru. So this here, we can interpret as to make someone, I'm going to do SO now, someone take out the trash. Or take out the trash, okay? Which is obviously the gomi part, the trash. Make someone take out the trash. So who are we forcing or causing to do this? In this case, ototo ni, okay? Ototo ni. So this is the important part here. Ni will mark who you're doing it to. Or to whom, right? To whom are you doing it? Like, who are you forcing to do something? You mark it with ni. For transitive verbs, okay? The important part here is that transitive verbs work a little different than intransitive ones. How about that dialect case where you mentioned where dasaseru becomes just su, dasu become dasusu. Dasusu? No, it would become dasasu, right? Because seru would be replaced with just su, so it would be dasasu, dasasu. It's not really a dialect thing, it's just a more casual way of saying it, but it's also, the thing that about it that is dialectic would be the fact that some dialects are more likely to use those forms. Yeah, it's more common there. I don't think I've heard dasasu much. Dasaseru is like much more common in this case. Would the sentence make sense if you remove ototo? Yeah, gomi o dasaseru. We just don't know who you're forcing at that point. We can just say gomi o dasaseru means to make someone take out the trash. We just don't know who it is, but the sentence would still make sense. We just lack a piece of information at that point. Ototo ni gomi o dasaseru. And then of course o. Okay, o is just the direct object marker. So what is the thing that is still affected by the verb? All right. So an easy way of like analyzing this would be to look at what the non-causative version would look like. So here, the non-causative version, we would just look at the action itself, which happens here. So the action itself is just taking out the trash. O is for gomi. Yes, the action itself is just taking out the trash with the transitive verb dasu, okay? Gomi o dasu is the basic sentence here. Gomi o... My mi is like really ugly. Gomi o dasu. Which just means to take out the trash, right? Gomi o dasu. That's our basic sentence. Gomi o dasu, our basic action. And we are now sort of forcing this action on someone else or letting someone else do the action. So we can use causative. We can say like, what if we wanted to make someone do it for us? We could be like, okay, dasu would turn into dasaseru, which is its causative form. The o would stay the same. It would still affect gomi because we're still talking about the trash being taken out. But the person that we're forcing to do it, we would mark with ni. Ototo ni gomi o dasaseru. So I will translate this so that it's very clear. One last time before we go to the next example. Make your little brother take out the trash, okay? Take out the trash. That's what this sentence is saying. 翔太さん、はじめまして。はじめまして。よろしくお願いします。Are there any people who are really, really confused right now before we move on to the next example? Or was this somewhat clear? Or clear enough for you to understand? By the way, as always, I understand everything 100%. Wow, that's actually pretty good. As always, I wouldn't expect you to be like, oh, I get it. Like, you shouldn't... Well, you can, that would be great. But usually you wouldn't walk away from this lesson just being absolutely perfect at it. No, that's not going to happen. But as long as you get kind of what I'm talking about, that's good enough. So that you can hopefully then recognize it as you see it in the wild. What's the question? What is ni doing there? Oh, like I mentioned, ni marks the person that you are making it do or letting it do. But I'll read what you do later. Nice. So, ni is what you use to mark the to whom, right? Like, who are you making it? Like, you're making your brother take out the trash. So, ototo ni. Excuse me, I burped. Ototo ni, because you're making your brother do it. Can you use e? No. Not in this case. It has to be ni. With transitive verbs like this, you have to use ni for the person that you make something, that you make them do something, or you let them do something. How about in cases I forced myself to do? You could say, like, let me think real quick. Jibun, you would usually say something like jibun wo. But that's, yeah, it kind of depends. So, jibun ni tabesaseru. Yeah, you can say jibun de, well, jibun de means by yourself, but you can use jibun wo or jibun ni in this case. Jibun ni gomi o dasaseru does work. It means I forced myself to take out the trash. Jibun ni gomi o dasaseru. Since in this case, jibun is nothing other than a pronoun or a noun, sort of working as the subject, or not, sorry, as the indirect object here, kind of an indirect object. Sekai sae mo. Yes. All right, let's do a different example sentence. So let me just clear all this stuff. And we'll do one more example sentence. Watashi wa jibun de gomi o dasaseru. This sounds more like you're saying, I all by myself made someone take out the trash. Because jibun de usually means by yourself, without anyone else. But if you wanted to say, I made myself do it, it would be like, jibun ni gomi o dasaseru. That would make more sense in that case. Since it's the same thing, it's just, if it's you who you're doing it to, right? You just use ni for jibun, rather than ototo ni. But the grammatical concept there is the same. Who are you doing it to? You mark it with ni, even if it's yourself. Grammatically, there's really nothing different there. Okay, one more example for transitive, okay? This is very topical. I like this. We'll use this. What about jibun wo? It depends on the verb. If you said jibun wo tabesaseru, that would mean, oh, are we 75% there? Jibun wo dasaseru would mean to make someone throw you out. If that makes sense. Jibun ni benkyou saseta. Yeah, jibun ni benkyou saseta. I made myself study. So with weird verbs like suru, it's a bit tricky, but we'll talk about it, okay? Go negative causative next. Well, negative causative is easy. It just means not. Like I mentioned, causative verbs, they conjugate like Ichidan verbs once they are causative. So the negative is just adding nai instead of ru. Ototo ni gomi o dasasenai means I don't make my brother take out the trash, right? So negative causative is really simple. It's just the opposite, the not action, basically. The act of not doing it. So it's very simple in this case. Okay, this one is nice too. Taro-kun ni kame o korosaseru. Isn't sasenai usually used in case like don't let... Well, sasenai is simply the negative of saseru, right? As in you don't force or you force him to not. You don't force him would be, yeah, sono dasasenai. If you want to force someone to not do something, you probably do it kind of different. I would use the opposite action at that point, but yeah. I don't know, I'd have to think about it. It's a very specific question. I have to think about it. Taro. I chose this one because it's topical, right? We just read Urashima Taro last week. So, in this case, maybe we'll talk about it after the lesson. I feel like we're getting into the specifics too much again, but that's probably a good topic for after the lesson. The difference between making someone not do something and not making someone do something. It's very, very interesting. Taro. I feel like the music is louder than usual, but I don't know. Like my preset is the same. Yeah. Well, I guess it's just like that. Seems important to know. Sometimes like you'd think that, but then just the fact that I can't really conceptualize it, that I don't know, like you probably just phrase it differently. I'd have to think about it. Like sometimes something just seems important because it's like very tricky in English specifically, but then in Japanese it's just so different. Like the priorities are all different sometimes. We'll talk about it. Don't worry. I will talk about some more things. Taro ni kame o korosaseru. So this is korosu, which means to kill someone. Korosaseru. Korosasu Taro. Yes, Urashima Taro. Taro-kun ni kame o korosaseru. Same principle, okay? This one will not take us as long. Naito saseru. Naito su... Can we do this later? I will talk about it later. This is just gonna get me so hard off topic now that I'll talk a half an hour about just that. Taro-kun ni kame o korosaseru. It's an edge case. I know it seems important. We will talk about it, but I don't want it to be part of the lesson. So, once again, we have ni. Because ni is who we're making Taro do it, right? Taro-kun ni. So Taro is the one doing it. Or rather, we're forcing Taro, right? We are, I guess, making him do it. Let's do making so that we're consistent, right? Making Taro do it. Do it! Making Taro do it. Taro-kun ni kame o korosaseru. Mamaluigi-san, konnichiwa. And then here, just kame o. Once again, this sentence here, just being kame o korosu, to kill the turtle. And then kame o korosaseru, to make someone kill the turtle. Can also be to let someone kill the turtle. I didn't mention this as much in the other sentence, but Japanese doesn't really differentiate between letting and making someone do something. You'd have to just know from context which interpretation suits, okay? Once again, this is like just one of those weird things. Ohayou gozaimasu. Hey Mochi, how are you doing? In Japanese, we just don't differentiate between letting and making. In this case, we not from the look. You can't tell by just looking at it. You have to think about it and then choose which interpretation fits. Okay. This may seem strange, but maybe a way of thinking about it is that just ambiguity in language is just a thing. Like sometimes things aren't 100% clear. And when you look from one language to another, sometimes the things that are very clear in one language will be very unclear in another language. And that is very strange for you because you're used to something being very clear usually. And then if it's suddenly not clear anymore, you're like, but how do they communicate? Like, how does that even work? It's very uncomfortable. So that kind of change. Kurogane-san, konnichiwa. So think of it like, for example, English has some other things where English is more ambiguous than Japanese. For example, English does not differentiate between it doesn't differentiate between demonstrative adjectives and demonstrative pronouns. Rosen, thanks for the follow. Arigato. What I mean by that is we don't differentiate between this house and this is beautiful. Even though grammatically speaking, those two different versions of this are different. One is a demonstrative adjective, is I think what it's called, and one is a demonstrative pronoun. Japanese does differentiate. We have kono and kore. They're two different words, and it matters how you use them, right? So there's something where English doesn't differentiate, but Japanese does. So for Japanese, it may be very weird that these two uses, that kore and kono, are both just this. It may seem weird for a Japanese person. So you can see how ambiguity is just a thing already in any language, and then it's different from language to language, and like that step can be a bit weird to conceptualize. So here, kame o korosaseru can mean both to make Taro kill the turtle or to let him kill the turtle. And it should just be clear from context. And if it's not clear, then it really isn't clear. Sometimes things aren't clear. And maybe if you're reading a book, the author does that on purpose. So that leaving out information so that you don't know at first. And then maybe in the next sentence it gets cleared up. So yeah, anyways, that's just something to get used to. Sometimes you don't get all the information. That's just the thing. Alright, but as far as the grammar goes, Taro-kun ni, because we're making Taro do it, kame o korosaseru, make him kill the turtle. You said this often goes with tekureru as well. Yeah, I don't want to actually do too many like combinations of things yet. Like I don't want to do like doing tekureru, then combining with causative, then combining with other stuff, since we're only learning about the causative for the first time yet. How many turtles he has to kill. How would you say Taro made me kill the turtle? You would say, 太郎くん made me kill the turtle. 太郎くんは、私に亀を殺させた。Right? 太郎くんは私に亀を殺させた。We still have like an unmentioned subject here. 太郎くんに亀を殺させる。Like we can, yeah, or, well, 太郎くん, so yeah, you could do, because once we do the causative, the subject of the verb becomes the person who's forcing someone else to do it. Okay? So here in this sentence, the subject is actually an implied watashi wa. Right? Like an implied watashi, an implied I is doing it to Taro. So the implied I here is actually the subject. So if we want someone else to be the subject, like Taro-kun, we could use Taro-kun wa and then watashi ni because he's doing it to me. He's forcing me to kill the turtle, if that makes sense. Taro-kun versus Taro-kun ga. Not really. It's the usual difference. It could be completely identical, but it's the usual wa versus ga discussion here, just like it always is. So choosing wa over ga here would be the same reason why you would choose wa over ga or the other way around in any other case. But would they both work? They would both work, yes. They would both work. Yes. Simply marking a subject in this case at least. Okay, guys. Moving on, okay? Next is going to be intransitive verbs. There's a little bit more stuff coming up, so okay, bear with me, all right? There's probably a little bit more confusing stuff coming up, but we'll get there, all right? So let's look at intransitive verbs. I will just hide away this real quick so we don't look at it too much. Intransitive ones. So intransitive. I'll shorten it to intransitive. Intransitive verbs. Okay. Whew. Take a quick breather. Sip of coffee. How is it already Wednesday? Well, I know, right? Time goes too fast, really, too fast. Okay. Now, the tricky part about intransitive verbs is going to be, again, this o versus ni. Okay? And I know it's weird, but hear me out. The fact of the matter is that if the verb is intransitive, o and ni can be used almost interchangeably, which is a bit strange, but we'll look at examples. So if the verb's intransitive, oftentimes o and ni get used. Thanks for the follow, Pixel Digs. Used. Almost. Okay, almost. Interchangeably. Wait, how do you spell interchangeably? Interchangeable. Interchangeably. There you go. I know all the English, okay? Don't ever say I don't know the English. Interchangeably. This is weird, okay? This is it's a very weird, like, quirky thing of the causative that this is a thing, because usually this is not true. I think the causative with intransitive verbs is like the only place where ni and o can be interchangeable. This is usually not the case. Let's look at some examples, and then I'll point out what the supposed difference here is. First of all, I'll say that oftentimes o is more common. And while some people would even say like, ni isn't used at all, or it's very uncommon, but it is used. It does work. It's just, you know, it's just a thing. We'll look at examples to understand this better. So let's take a look. I luckily already have a few that I just copy, okay? So, let me get this back. Okay, so this is a good one. Can I select this text, please? There we go. Plop. A very short one. Short and simple, right? All we need for now. We have 友達を怒らせる. Okay. Okay. We have here 友達. So that's ともだち. Okay. 友達を怒らせる. So this is 怒る. 怒る means to get angry. 怒らせる. 怒らせる. Okay? 怒る, 怒らない, 怒らせる. Standard conjugation. Once again, 怒る, 怒らない, take away the ない, 怒らせる. Standard conjugation for 語段 verb. okoru means to get angry, and okoru is intransitive. You cannot say 何かを怒る. That doesn't work. Okoru just means that someone or something is getting angry. Okay? It's intransitive. And yet, we use it with o. Why is that? Well, the easy answer is that's just how it is. 友達を怒らせる means to make your friend angry, okay? To make your friend, could be someone else's friend, a friend, doesn't matter. To make your friend angry. Okay, to cause them to be angry, to cause them to. So the non-transitive version would be 友達が怒る. My friend gets angry. 友達を怒らせる. I make my friend angry. And note, once again, we have like an implied subject somewhere here. So we could add something like 私は友達を怒らせた. I made my friend angry. I made my friend get angry. Exactly. I made my friend angry. Oh, make, I kind of made that bad. 怒らせる. To make your friend angry. Okay. こらや、こんにちは。こんにちは. Okay. Now, we need to talk about o versus ni, okay? Okay. Situations, something that could never happen. Okay, so oftentimes, when you have something, when you're affecting something, letting or making something, that thing itself doesn't have a will of its own, you should tend to use o, okay? Just as a tendency. Or in general, o is very common, okay? You'll see o all the time. So, 友達 does have a will of its own, but with other verbs, with other words, such as this sentence here. 心を、乱される。心を乱される, which would be to cause your heart to be in uproar or whatever. Like 乱す means to like disturb or like, you know, cause something to be like disturbed. The kokoro itself doesn't really have a will of its own, so o is very suitable here. It works out just fine with is it midas? Is it midas or something else? I think it's midas, right? Just before I mess up here. Yeah, midasu. Midasu. So midasu here to throw into disorder, to disarrange, to disturb. Oh, I guess this is transitive, so it doesn't really, it's transitive anyways. So yeah. I guess what they use here is rather midasareru. Midasareru. Right? Wait. Midasareru. Midasare saseru. Midasare saseru. This is a long one. Why is it midasare saseru? Yeah, there. Midasare. Wait, which one? They're using something else. Midaru. Oops, they're using midaru. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm being silly. Midaru. Not this one. At least they should. Wait, I just saw it here. Am I? Yeah, midaru is a thing. Midareru. Or midareru. I guess midareru is more common. Midareru. Midaru I can't get to show up, but they're using midareru. There you go. We found it. Okay. They're using this one, okay? I'm gonna go because I feel I should have at the start lesson. Yeah, don't worry about it. Midare. So ne, midare saseru. Gome. Sorry, I got a bit confused myself there. But they're using midareru. Midareru being an ichidan intransitive verb. Midareru without ru is midare. Midare saseru. Midare saseru. So, 心を乱れさせる, which is like to say, to cause someone's heart to be in trouble, to cause someone to be in disarray, right? To cause someone's heart to be in disarray, something like that. To cause someone to lose composure, all right? So we use o in this case as well. Again, the weird part here really is that all these intransitive verbs, which would usually never use o, suddenly use o. Then for ni, okay? Ni is usually used. Here it says, okay, ni shows self-discipline and recognition of the will of the person being made to do something, which is why it goes with the let definition. So when ni is used, it can often be more like the let someone do something, okay? So, basically, the way this will work out is you have a sentence like this. Now, note that shouka. There we go. Note that just because ni is used doesn't mean it has to be let, but often it is. And just because o is used doesn't mean it has to be make, but often it is. Again, like what they write also in the article is that ni can often show some sort of consideration for the other party. Okay, so in that sense, in that regard, it can often be a little bit closer to the let someone do something kind of meaning. So what have we here as far as sentences is concerned? So 今回, this means this time. 今回は山本に行かせましょう。Okay? 山本に行かせましょう。I'm so sorry for the noise. Amazing. Such is the joy of living on the countryside. 山本, okay? 山本に行かせましょう。Okay? That's just it. 行かせましょうか。行かせましょうか。So this translates to something like shall we? Shall we let, right? Let is kind of the important part. Yamamoto-san go this time. Yamamoto go this time. Shall we let Yamamoto-san go this time? Right? Shall we let Yamamoto-san go this time? Here, we use ni, and suddenly ni is more like it used to be with the transitive ones, where here ni marks the person that we're letting or making do something. Okay? 今回はYamamoto-san or Yamamotoに行かせましょうか。行かせる means to make someone go or to let someone go. So here Yamamoto is the person that we are letting go. Okay, we're letting Yamamoto-san go, or we're making Yamamoto-san go. Ayumi-san, hello! Hello! That's basically it. I'm gonna hang, but grabbing a thing, be back and watch reading. Yes! So we're almost done with the lesson, actually. This is basically most of what I wanted to talk about today. What about, shall we let Yamamoto go to Tokyo this time? Would you use a second ni? Yes, you would. You can have multiple different usages of ni. There's actually a sentence. That's a good idea. There is an example sentence that I have, which uses multiple different ni. So let's look at that one as well. So you can use o here instead. You could, yes. 今回はYamamoto-sanを行かせましょうか. It sounds a little bit more like we should make Yamamoto go, rather than let him go. Again, the main nuance here is that ni showing a little bit more concern or a little bit more recognition of the will of the other person. But you could use o. You can. This is another one of those times I stare at the kanji and then find out it's a person's name. Yes, Yamamoto. Yamamoto is just a person. Let me see. We have one. I have one somewhere. Just need to find it. Ni. Yeah, this one maybe. This one could work. So this one works. We have two ni in this sentence. Mountain books, yes. Origin of mountain. 答えさせる. Alright. Let me just do bloop and move this over. 先生は学生に質問に答えさせる. Okay, two knees. What are we gonna do? Two knees. Very confusing, but worry not. All you have to do is look at the sentence and apply like what you know, okay? That's always important. Apply the knowledge you know. So you have two knees, yeah, just like a real person. 質問に答える makes sense, right? 答える means to answer. So here we have sensei. I'm not going to furigana sensei. 学生, because I don't know, sensei is so common. I hope you know it. If not, just remember this is sensei. 学生, which is like this. 学生. 学生に質問に答えさせる。答えさせる。to answer。ニコニコに先生は学生に質問に答えさせる。What does this mean? Well, okay. 質問に答える。This part, right? This 質問に答える part. Obviously, I've like unconjugated the 答えさせる 答える means to answer, and 質問に just means to answer a question. So when we change it into causative, 質問に答えさせる, it still means to answer a question, but rather to make someone answer a question. So this に is just the same に that would show up with 答える usually. Okay, and then this ni here is actually the one that is used in conjunction with the with the causative itself, because 学生に, the students, the teacher is making the students answer the question. Does that make sense? 先生は, and here you also have a nice illustration of the subject being explicitly included. Okay, here we have a subject. 先生は, right? 学生に質問に答えさせる. The teacher is making his students answer the question. Does that make sense? Any questions about this specific one? Is the order of 学生に質問に important? 質問に学生に答えさせる. I don't think it matters, but it does sound a bit weird. I don't think there would be a point in changing this order. I think 質問に答えさせる works really well as a pair. It makes it a lot clearer, in my opinion. I don't think it matters, though. Purely grammatically speaking, you should be able to change the order however you like. You could also have the 先生は as the last part. So theoretically, you should be able to say the sentence as 学生に先生は質問に答えさせる or 質問に学生に先生は but it becomes a bit weird. Grammatically speaking, I don't think there should be a problem with this, but I would say this is probably the most natural order of saying it, just because 質問に答える works really well as a unit. If that makes sense. Alright. This is the last example that I'm going to show for now. So, if you have any questions, now let's talk about some questions. Also, while you come up with questions, if you have any, I'll think about the making someone not do something and not making someone do something again. So let me think. I'm pretty sure you could use something like, to make someone not do something, you could do something like ないようにする or ないように叱る or something like that, to scold them not to do something. Tapping. Thanks for the follow. フォローありがとうございます. Will it work as 学生に質問を答えさせる? Yes. It would work. I think. 質問を答える. I'm not quite sure. Well, 答える何かを答える. 答える is答える considered transitive or intransitive? Let me quickly think. 答える just to be sure. Not quite sure. Usually 質問に答える but 何かを答える. Okay, let me think. 答える because I think you could say something like 質問にはいを答える. It's intransitive. Okay, so usually it would be considered intransitive. So then it could work. Yes, you could do it. 学生に質問を答えさせる. It sounds stronger, I would say. Well, no, sorry. It would have to be the other way around. Sorry, senpai. Senpai. It would have to be the other way around. You could say 学生を質問に答えさせる. But you shouldn't say 質問を答える. Because that wouldn't make sense. Because, 答える itself, sorry, this can be a bit confusing, even for me. It's like one of those things where you don't think much. If you're actually using it or reading it, you don't think too much about it. So 答える is considered intransitive. So in this case, since the に here doesn't have anything to do with the 質問に part doesn't have anything to do with the causative itself, it's just 質問に答える. It should stay 質問に答える because you cannot say 質問を答える. At least I don't think you say that. Like, that's not one of those like weird intransitive ones that uses を. It's because it's always answering to the question. Yeah, basically. Can you have a を instead of the に for 質問に答えさせる? So that's just what we talked about, right? So you can replace, in this sentence here, you could replace this with を. This you can do, okay? And then it sounds a lot more you're forcing them to answer the question. It sounds a bit stronger this way, in my opinion. But this one here you shouldn't change because it's always 質問に答える. It's never 質問を答える, right? Because 答える is intransitive, and this に here is just the indirect object of this like sentence. 質問に答える. I hope this makes sense. You have to maintain intransitive rules. Yeah, basically, yes. It just happens that you can almost look at 質問に答える as a unit. And that should kind of stay the same other than you change 答える to its causative. But the 質問に part will stay. You cannot say 質問を答えさせる except if, because that would be interpreted as like make the question answer something. It would be a bit weird. It would start like to sound really weird. So if that makes sense. So this ni should stay the same here, but you could change this 学生に to a 学生を, and it would sound a bit strong. It sound like forcing your students to answer those questions. That makes sense. All right. Wait. Okay, that was the question. That's meta. I know, right? I think that was all the questions, I guess. I hope. Again, we're gonna do like a few more minutes, so you have time to type another question if you want to. I highly recommend that you just read through this. It's more detailed than what I was able to do today. Like I just, this is a lot of information. This sentence is a bit weird to me though. Yeah. Like, which one? The を specifically or the に? 先生が学生に質問を答えさせる. Yeah, I don't know, like, I don't comment on, like, weird sentences, because at that point, it's like, I've had, like, long conversations which led nowhere, which was like, oh, but the sentence is weird. It's like, I say, 先生は学生の質問に答える, or, but that's different, right? 学生は先生に質問する. Yeah, but those are both different. この例文は、どっちも意味が違うんです。この場合だと、まあ、質問に答えさせるっていうのは、その生徒たちを強いて答えさせるっていう感じだから、先生は学生の質問に答えるというのは、まあ、この場合だとね、先生は学生の質問に答えるとすれば、実は答えるのは先生になる。でも、この場合だと、答えるのは学生たち。で、学生は先生に質問するも全然違うので、違うんで、この場合だと、質問するのは学生たち。でも、この場合だと、まあ、質問はそのままになんか、こう、多分先生がね、挙げた質問。で、先生は、その学生たちに、その挙げた質問に答えさせる。So I don't agree that these are like compare, like these two sentences are both fine, but they don't mean what this means. They're different in meaning on a very like fundamental level, right? Like the way to say like this says something way different than what you wrote says. Even though what you wrote is obviously correct, but it just means something completely different in both cases, right? I see. Teacher is asking something to the student. Yeah. 先生が質問を聞いて生徒に答えさせる. That's the way this one would work, right? Anyways, yeah, there you go. I hope this all made enough sense. Again, I encourage you to just read this, go through it. It's a lot of information. Causative, the thing with causative is the more you analyze it, the more complicated it gets. Don't worry too much about it. As long as you remember the sort of, oh, it can mean to let someone do something or to make someone do something, you'll be good in most cases. And then the ni o confusion is a bit tricky, but you'll just quickly get used to hearing it. In my experience, if you hear it like 100 times, you'll be like, I just kind of know what this says, and you don't have to worry too much about all this. This is maybe more if you wanted to like make your own sentences to double check if they're correct. You can use all these rules that we discussed and that you can find in the article. But as always, this is the mechanics of it. This is the theory, the grammar. Now go out and try and find it and try and hear it, listen to it. That's always what I think is the best thing to do, is you learn about the grammar point, and then can we do Etha sub made everyone want to sub to? Yeah, okay, we can do that, right? So I would probably do something like 朝のサブはみんなも But like, okay, what? Sabu shitaku saseta. I think that would work. We have to combine some things there for making that work, because making them want to subscribe is different yet again, because it's like sabu shitai, right? Sabu shitai, want to subscribe. So let's try and work with it, right? So I would do something like asa, like asa-san no sabu wa, because it's the subscription here being the trigger making someone else do something, so the subject. Asa-san no sabu wa we can do a comma and then the text disappears. Hello? Okay, that was weird. Minna mo. And then what you can do actually is you can use the adverbial form of an adjective and then saseru. So like aoku saseru means to make something become blue. So in this case we would say sabu shitaku saseta. Okay, that would probably work. Minna mo sabu. I'm gonna do subscribe, but sabu is shorter, right? So sabu shitai would be want to subscribe. Minna mo sabu shitai. Everyone else also wants to subscribe, and then I would do ku saseta. So I think this one would work. Asa-san no sabu wa minna mo sabu shitaku saseta. Atha's sub caused everyone else to also want to subscribe. If that makes sense. I think this should work. Maybe some Japanese persons can be like, well, technically, but that's really weird. Asa-san no sabu o mitara minna mo sabu shitaku natta would also work. Yeah, that would also work. Of course, at that point, we completely get rid of any causative. That also, it works, right? Sabu shitaku natta. Asa-san, I would just do sabu because sabu is kind of weird, but yeah, sabu. So when you're saying like asa-san no sabu o mitara minna mo sabu shitaku natta, as they saw Atha subscribe, they also wanted to subscribe. Here we don't have a causative at all. Nothing is nothing is making someone do anything. It's just that they did this and then they felt like they wanted to subscribe. By the way, if you do feel like subscribing, you know what to do. Subscribe. Thank you. Goodbye. But yeah. Deep L agrees with this sentence at least. That's good. Thanks, Deep L. So yeah, this is how you would do it. This is for adjectives. You can use like adverbial form plus saseru, right? Taku saseru, make them want something, or again, hayaku saseru, to make it go fast, something like that. So there you go. That was it. That was causative. And next week, I'm not sure what we're going to talk about. We could do causative passive. So yeah, causative passive would be one thing we could do. That's a really weird one. I have to like read a lot because usually I do it by feeling. Or we could do some other stuff. Maybe we'll just do causative passive and then be like, okay, we're done with this. We're done with this madness. All right. So there you go. Ladies and gents, thank you so much for watching. And let's move on to do other things, which is going to be a reading circle on the Discord server, which you should join. Not only for reading circles, but also for other stuff, such as recently VTuber memes. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this